Okay, I want to dive a little bit more into the PGR display. And so this is a really exciting area for me in Greenkeeper. We've already looked at the product expiration lifetime, and you'll notice here that we've added a couple extra products to our fake test demo course we're working on at this time. So we had an application of a new and trim it combined together in February 22nd, and today is again March 15th. And so we are going to see that the new and the trim-it are going to be expired on this putting green in the next couple days. The question you might have though is if you're starting to mix applications together, what does that have on your clipping yield? So, if I know a new by itself is giving me 35% suppression right now, and I know trim it's giving me 39% suppression, and then a few days back I made an application of proxy, which is giving me a little bit of suppression, and I'm getting some suppression on my Banner Max too. What is the cumulative effect on my growth rate and on my clipping yield suppression? And so what we find is that we can start adding these models together and then apply a correction factor that allows us to estimate what the total amount of suppression is. And in this example, you're going to see we have very extreme amounts of suppression where the system is saying, individually these products are maybe suppressing clipping yield somewhere between 3 and 39%, but on the whole, they're at 77% suppression right now. And so that's what this model over here is showing. My clipping yield suppression, the total estimated yield suppression. And it will do this for your greens, your tees, your fairways. You'll have a different breakdown. And so over here on your product expiration lifetime, this is showing how when the PGRs need to be reapplied. This clipping yield suppression tab is showing what is the effect of all of those products having on your growth rate. So over here, the color indicates how soon you are to the product being expired. But over here, the color indicates how much suppression you have. Where if you have high levels of suppression, it goes red. If it's medium levels from a product, it's yellow. And if it's low levels of suppression, it's green. And then the bar length here tells us how long the response we're having from the PGR is occurring. So one of the things you might wonder about is, well, why is over here this bar is at 87% and this one says 35%? Well, first of all, this one is 87% in terms of growing degree days. So 218 growing degree days divided by 252 growing degree days gets 87%. And so that is what that one means. Over here, this is how much suppression I'm getting out of that individual product. But again, we have 4 different products here, 3 growth regulators and a DMI fungicide that are all influencing my clipping yield suppression. Then you'll notice too, how come this bar only goes halfway where this bar is almost expired? It's because when we're applying a growth regulator, we need to reapply the product right after it starts to hit peak suppression. If we go longer than peak suppression, and we only have one PGR applied, it's going to wear off. And so we would say need to reapply anew at 250 growing degree days. But if I go over to this clipping yield suppression button and push this blue, you're going to see it says 420 growing degree days. Well, what gives here? Well, the suppression phase in total is 420 growing degree days. If you were only using anew, you would want to apply the PGR, reapply the PGR at 252. You wouldn't wait to 420. If you waited that long, then the grass is going to rebound and you're going to lose suppression. So what we do over here is we look at the growth suppression of the individual products. And so like the new is 420, the trim it is 445. And again, pushing the blue button that tells me what the rate was, if you're curious what the rate was. And then even the banner. The banner is using growing degree day models too. Even though it's a DMI fungicide, DMI fungicides are the same type of a material as a Class B PGR. So we can use the same type of modeling approaches. So if we were only applying a growth regulator, just an individual application, say it's just a new, if we waited till this expired and went to 252 growing degree days, what we would notice is the older application of a new, the clipping yield suppression would become less and less. And so we go 35 and slowly become less and less. And then the more recent application that we would make on, looks like the 18th here, we would then start to see intensify. And so as one is going up, the other one is going down, they cancel each other out. Clipping yield suppression is the same. So when I'm mixing them together, all of a sudden now we have to start accounting for them all individually. And we're seeing a lot of stacking going on because, first of all, we mixed two PGRs together. And then second of all, we are making an application of other PGRs in this scenario. We do apply a correction factor because if it was over 77%, or if we kept adding the PGRs together and we started getting to 100%, or above 100%, well, that's impossible. You can't have 120% growth suppression. Otherwise, the grass would be actually growing negative. It'd be getting smaller every day instead of growing. And so that's impossible. But this is an example of the growth. The growth rate here is about 77%. When we add everything together and doing some correction factors in the background, which came from model data, then we are able to show what the current level of clipping yield suppression is on our greens. And so that's how you can leverage, the left side is when the products need to be applied. The right side is what the effect is that we're having on the turf. One of the things too is you can't get rid of these because if you apply them, they're having an effect. So it's not like over here where you can say, I don't want to see these anymore. I mean, for this, I can click this yellow button and now I don't see a new there anymore, but it still exists over in this state. And so that's the case. Another thing with these buttons, if you click them and they're green, it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? Because the product is probably still having an effect, and so we'll cancel. If for some reason you didn't want to see this banner max here because you didn't apply it, the best way to do it would be to go to the menu, past applications, and then go delete that application that didn't get made.